Welcome to Langenscheidt.
Business English in 30 Days by Lynn, Weston and Eleanor Halsall.
CD 1.
Unit 1. The Prospective Employee. This unit deals with attending and giving interviews and filling in an application form for a graduate trainee scheme. Moira Kelly has just graduated from university and wants to train for a career in accountancy. She has applied to Granville, Thompson and Stiles and has been invited to an interview for one of 2 graduate trainee posts. Competition is tough, and Moira is one of only 6 candidates to reach this stage. There are 3 people on the interview panel: Jim Granville, Andrea Bradshaw and Jane Cove.
Hello, Moira. Thank you for taking the time to come and see us again. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce everyone here. Jim is the firm's senior partner.
Hello.
Andrea has just qualified, and I'm responsible for human resources. I'll hand over to Jim first.
I'd like to repeat the welcome. We will use this opportunity to ask you more about the information you've provided on your CV and to answer any questions that you may have for us. My first question is to ask what you know about our firm.
I saw your brochure in the University Careers Centre and was impressed by what I read. I know you have some high-profile clients such as Elecom plc and Style House, and that your graduate scheme has been running for nearly 20 years. I did talk to a couple of the big firms in February, but your scheme struck me as the most suitable.
Can you tell us what you find particularly attractive?
I like the idea of working for a smaller partnership, as I feel it will give me a wider range of experience. I would like to specialise later, perhaps in the area of taxation.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I would like to see myself progressing up the career ladder, perhaps as a junior partner.
But what particular skills have you acquired that you'll bring to our firm?
I'm good at detail and have developed a flair for tracking down inconsistencies. I also have good listening skills, which I consider to be important in accountancy.
The questions continue for another 30 minutes.
Do you have any questions for us, Moira?
Yes, I would like to know when you expect to be making your decision.
We're seeing all the candidates today, and we'll be in a position to make a decision tomorrow. You'll hear from me by Friday whether you have been successful or not.
That's great. I will be back at my parents' address from Sunday if you need to contact me there.
Thank you for attending.
Don't bring your goat to work.
Trying to get noticed can backfire. An applicant for a creative position with Saatchi attached his CV to a goat and released it into the reception area. He failed to get shortlisted.
Making the interview work.
As a selection tool, the interview remains popular. Despite the sophistication of alternative selection methods such as assessment centres, competency-based application forms, third-party screening and telephone interviewing, these will never completely replace the face-to-face meeting. It is a fallible process, however, and decisions can be coloured by first impressions. To help counteract this, there are best practice guidelines from organisations such as the Institute of Personnel and Development. There is also a growing body of employment legislation both in Britain and in the US which seeks to protect the rights of interviewees. With equal opportunities being of great importance, interviewers must not ask questions which could be discriminatory. For example, asking a female candidate about her future family plans or an ethnic minority candidate whether his religious affiliations would interfere with his working life could be seen as discriminatory.
Unit 2. The International Conference. This unit deals with attending business conferences, techniques for making contact with fellow delegates, business etiquette, and filling in a conference registration form. Paul Lodge is attending an International Information Technology IT conference at the New Exhibition Centre, NEC, in Birmingham, England. He has just completed the registration formalities and is making his way towards the first session he has booked. Soon, he is approached by a fellow delegate.
Hi, are you going to the Integrated Systems session?
Yes, that's the one in the main auditorium, I think.
I'm Vince Newman, Senior Vice President of Systems from Americom USA. I see from your badge you were Paul.
Yes, that's right. Paul Lodge, Chief Systems Engineer from DIS AG.
Good to meet you, Paul. Are you staying here in town?
Yes, at the post house. It's just outside the city centre.
Well, we must meet up after the session. Here, let me give you my card.
Oh, thank you. Here's mine.
Catch you later, Paul.
Excuse me, do you know the way to the Integrated Systems session?
Yes, it's this way. I'm going there myself.
Oh, fine. Do you mind if I come along with you?
No, of course not.
I'm Charles, by the way. Charles Shearer from Elecom plc.
Paul Lodge, DIS AG.
Pleased to meet you, Paul. I think we have a lot in common. Our people are spending a lot of time talking with yours at the moment.
Yes, that's right. In fact, I met one of them last month. Robert Bridges, one of your senior specialists, I think.
Yes, Bob runs the emergency support team in London. Do you have any involvement with Americom?
Not that I'm aware of. Although you never know what talks are taking place at high level.
One of their senior people is supposed to be here, a chap by the name of Vince Newman. I'd like to meet him.
Oh, he's going to be at this session, so you'll get your opportunity.
That's good. Anyway, we'd better get cracking. It's due to start.
Beware of body language.
If 60% of communication is non-verbal, gestures can be dangerous. They don't travel uniformly across borders, and the wrong one can land you in hot water. George Bush got caught out in Australia by giving the victory salute with his palm inwards. The meaning? Rather less polite than he intended.
Business etiquette.
On the whole, the German speaker will find fewer differences when conducting business in the UK and in the US than with the business cultures of other countries. A less formal approach may be adopted in some areas. Americans will usually apply first-name terms, but there are many similarities. Punctuality is expected, particularly in the US, and lateness will meet with disapproval. The personal zone, that is, the distance we feel most comfortable with when standing next to someone at a social engagement or business meeting, is similar, at between 50 centimetres and 120 centimetres. In the UK, there will be some small talk before turning to business matters. In the US, they will quickly get down to business. In the UK and in the US, the hand is generally offered in greeting only on the first introduction and not at subsequent encounters.
Unit 3. After-sales service. This unit deals with benefiting from and giving good after-sales or customer service and filling in a customer complaints form. Karen Jones manages a Stylehouse franchise in Kensington. She has designed and arranged the fitting for an exclusive gift shop in Mayfair. Last night, the lighting system in the display window failed. It is 2 weeks before Christmas, the major retail period, and the irate owner was on the phone first thing this morning to report the problem. Karen is calling Lightways, the supplier.
Good morning, Lightways. Jane speaking. How may I help you?
Good morning. This is Karen Jones from Stylehouse. I need to speak to someone in your after-sales service.
Certainly, madam. I'll just put you on hold while I connect you.
After sales, Fred speaking, how may I help?
Hi, it's Karen here from Stylehouse. One of my clients has an urgent problem with a lighting system you supplied recently. It seems to be defective.
Can you give me the model number and describe the fault?
Yes, it's the RJ239, the diffused lighting system. It's in a window display. The lights started flickering last night and they had to turn them off.
Have they tried them again today?
Yes, they tried them when they opened the shop. Again, the same problem.
What is the name and address of the shop?
It's Gift Box in Shepherd Market, Mayfair.
Yes, I remember the order. It was a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
Yes, October. And now with Christmas around the corner.
Don't worry, I understand. We'll get an electrician down there as soon as possible to fix it.
Thanks. I'll leave it with you then.
I'll give you a call to confirm when we've been. Bye for now.
Bye.
When does it end?
Marks & Spencer is renowned for its no-quibble guarantee on refunds. However, even this has its limits, as an assistant was overheard politely refusing a refund for an article of clothing bought 10 years earlier.
Customer service.
What is good customer service? Is responsibility over once the sale is made? If estimates are correct that it costs 5 times as much to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing one, then achieving customer satisfaction should be the goal of every organisation. Forward-thinking organisations welcome customer complaints and feedback as valuable sources of information which can be used to improve the business. By responding to customer requests with, "Tell us what you want and we'll supply it," the US has turned service excellence into a fine art, with the customer firmly placed at the heart of the business. Jan Carlson, the former president of SAS, referred to every customer contact as those moments of truth, which defined the organisation in the customer's eyes and helped it succeed or disappear from view.
Unit 4. The Annual General Meeting. This unit deals with attending and participating in an AGM, the role of the chairman, the dismissing of an employee, and the power of shareholders. Elecom plc is having its AGM. Last year, this event passed smoothly, barely registering in the financial press. This year, however, the mood is different. Elecom's share price has taken a tumble following allegations of financial malpractice. The meeting is heavily attended by Elecom's shareholders, who are represented by a spokeswoman.
We've seen the figures, and I have to say they are not impressive. We have also listened to the board's summary. I'm not satisfied that it explains Elecom's poor profits.
Despite significant growth in the telecommunications industry, competition is tough, particularly from the Far East. The strength of the pound has had an impact on exports.
Mr. Chairman, with respect, You are not talking to the press.
No.
As shareholders, we require frank answers.
Right.
We
certainly do.
You are as aware as I am that the reason this meeting is so well attended is because of recent speculation in the press. What we really want to hear is whether there is any truth in these stories.
This story, for want of a better word, is nothing more than that. The board investigated the rumours immediately and found them to be false.
That was last month. Unfortunately, it doesn't explain the new allegations of fraud from one of your former staff members.
A disaffected employee. John Sims was dismissed for gross misconduct. He isn't the first person to respond by going to the press.
A disaffected employee or an innocent whistleblower?
An ex-employee with a grudge.
So the assertions he made in The Guardian are completely unfounded?
Absolutely.
And he wasn't sacked for bringing irregularities to light?
He was dismissed for contravening company regulations. I cannot breach confidentiality in a public meeting by revealing the nature of his actions. It would not be in his interest to do so.
Mr. Chairman, Elecom share price has fallen by 30%. Profits are down by 10 million. What are you, the board of directors, going to do to restore the city's confidence?
Who are the motley fools?
Taking their name from the fool in Shakespeare's As You Like It, this group provides financial advice and information for amateur shareholders. Aimed at proving financial affairs are accessible to all, they disperse wisdom via the internet, challenging the influence of banks and their advisors.
Shareholder power.
Although investment by individuals has increased since the early 80s, financial institutions still dominate the scene. Return on investment is the principal concern of this group, many of whom represent large pension funds. A shareholding of 5% or more brings the voting rights which enable institutional shareholders to wield immense power in dictating a company's direction. This is changing slowly, and the other stakeholders, customers, employees, suppliers, competitors and communities, are receiving a higher profile. Shareholders are becoming more conscious of ethical concerns and are making more demands on companies to satisfy certain criteria. The growth in ethical funds that accommodate their wishes is starting to have an impact on companies which do not toe the line.
Unit 5. Networking. This unit deals with networking, forming potential business contacts, attending courses, and filling in a course questionnaire. Karen Jones is attending a one-day course in effective networking. The course is run by an American group, and the leader, Amy Silverman, is introducing the basics of networking to the participants.
What do you understand by networking?
It's a way of increasing your number of contacts.
Yes, that's right. Anything else?
It's a form of promotion, of getting your name known.
Yes, it's that too. What else?
It's about building up links with people for mutual benefit.
That's a good answer. Let's concentrate first on mutual benefits. We all have our expertise in different areas. We're good at what we do, but we don't have all the skills necessary to succeed at everything. Networking is one way of filling that gap. Let me start by asking you what your specialist field is.
I'm an interior designer and I run a style house franchise.
What do you know about landscape gardening?
Not very much.
Let's imagine you have a client. You've drawn up the plans for the interior and the client is happy. However, he now wants the outside of his house to look fantastic, so he asks you who you recommend. Where do you start?
I consult my list of contacts.
Mm-hmm. And where do you have these contacts from?
A few of them come from my design course. A few I've met in the business.
That's a start, but it might not be enough. Are you sure you don't know any landscape gardeners?
Fairly sure, yes.
This is an exercise for the group during the coffee break. Introduce yourself to someone new. I want you to find out something about that individual not relating to his or her professional life. After the break, we'll discuss what we've learned.
The group breaks for coffee, and Karen goes to find a partner. Getting your net to work.
On the principle that you are never more than 4 or 5 network steps away from the person you want to meet, you can have fun imagining what those links might be. As we have relatively little in-depth knowledge about one another, you may be surprised by who knows who also knows you.
Successful networking.
Although networking fills a vital role in today's business relations in both the UK and the US, the approach may be slightly different. Americans will be more pragmatic and will quickly move on if they feel there is little to be gained from a particular connection. The British tend to be more loyal and will sometimes stick with a network even when there is little opportunity to make new business. Whichever is your preference, to achieve success in networking, it is essential to maintain a genuine interest in what other people tell you. Keep a handy supply of business cards and be willing to offer assistance or a link, even when you see no immediate benefit to yourself.
Unit 6. Resolving the dispute. This unit deals with resolving disputes, whistleblowing, and taking strike or industrial action. John Sims was a finance officer at Elecom plc's headquarters in London. He was recently sacked and has since taken his story to The Guardian. Sims claims that he was the subject of a systematic campaign of harassment, and this is now being investigated. Despite Elecom's assertion that he was sacked for a serious breach of company regulations, Sims insists that it was because he reported financial irregularities. Elecom's workforce is unhappy with the dismissal and is demanding answers from the company. They are meeting with the union to discuss what action they can take.
Thank you all for attending tonight. This meeting has been called in response to the sacking of John Sims. As your union representative, I am aware that many of you are unhappy with the lack of response from the management.
Yes. Is it true that John has been barred from attending?
Elecom has exercised its right not to allow John to be here on the grounds that he is no longer an employee of the company.
Then who's protecting his rights?
John remains a member of the union, and he continues to receive our support on that basis.
I'm not happy with the way Elecom has behaved over this. It's my belief that John was sacked for whistleblowing. Now, where's the protection for employees?
Judging by the numbers here tonight, I'm sure most members would agree with you. It's important to get that message across to Elecom's board in a peaceful way.
Can't we just go on strike?
We can't withdraw labour without first taking a ballot of members. For this, we'd need to give management 7 days' notice. Completing a ballot will take time.
What about picketing?
Yes.
Well, we can consider it eventually, but it must comply with the regulations.
After the fiasco at the AGM, I think the press would be interested to hear of further action. It doesn't look good to our shareholders if the workforce is up in arms.
My recommendation is to seek a meeting with the board, requesting John's reinstatement. If we can resolve this peacefully, then we all gain. If the management doesn't want to listen, Then we have to look for other ways to convince them. How do the members feel about this?
I suppose we ought to give it a go.
Yes, I'll support that.
Good. That's settled then. We'll approach the board tomorrow morning and report back next week.
Is that my colour? Oh, sorry.
Should you blow the whistle?
Originating from football, the term describes someone who blows the whistle to stop a foul, or, in the business world, to expose corruption. In the past, the whistleblower has invariably been the one to lose his or her job, but now the tide is turning. New laws have been introduced to protect individuals who disclose what the boss might have been up to, and organisations need to think twice before firing the wrong person.
Industrial relations in the US.
Strike action is usually the final option. Although many union members may vote to approve a strike at the onset of negotiations, in practice, the loss of wages and the threat to job security will make many uneasy with taking strike action. The rights of striking employees have been weakened by recent legal decisions. The Supreme Court ruled in 1989 that any replacement workers hired during a strike would not have to be dismissed when the strike ended. The same court has also ruled that any employee not wishing to take part is entitled to resign from the union without risk of reprisal.
Unit 7. It's a good idea, but will it sell? This unit deals with market research, gathering information, and entering a prize draw. Stylehouse is a franchise offering design consultancy to retail outlets. Janet Barker, Head of Marketing Strategy, is considering including feng shui consultation in Stylehouse's range of services. First, she needs to know whether it is just a passing craze or whether it is something Stylehouse's customers really want. Nick Brown of QData is discussing how to use market research to find out.
It's an interesting idea. What makes you think it might be successful?
I have a hunch that it'll become popular here. The Chinese have been using it for centuries, and in Hong Kong it's taken seriously by most businesses.
It's not a concept that'll be easily understood by many of your customers. We will need to describe it carefully in any questionnaire we run.
Where would you recommend starting?
Well, for the first step, we should test the market with a small sample of your existing clients. Are they familiar with it? Would they consider using it? Do they think it's a superstitious notion, or are they more open to the idea?
How many would you recommend for a small sample?
Well, perhaps no more than 50, chosen from a broad selection of your clientele. Provided we take a good cross-section, that should be enough to give us an idea of how it might be received.
And assuming it gets a positive reaction?
Well, then we take it to the next stage and enlarge the sample to include potential clients.
Feng shui is really based on common sense use of space. Lots of light, presence of water, all the things psychologists say will aid productivity. Maybe that's an area we can highlight.
Perhaps. Here in the West, we are much more suspicious of Eastern tradition.
I'm happy to start with the small sample. What do you estimate will be the cost for that?
To design the questionnaire, select the sample and process the data, you can expect to be charged no more than £5,000.
That's fine. When can you start?
Avoiding the language problem.
An essential part of market research is to check the name of a product intended for an overseas market. There are many examples of names which have not been checked, with unfortunate consequences for the organization concerned. A well-known British manufacturer wondered why its new car didn't sell in Spain. Unfortunately, its name translated into Spanish as No Go. Not great advertising for a car.
Researching the market.
The purpose of market research is to assist and improve marketing decisions by understanding the market and the needs of customers. It will assess the viability of a product or service to decide the likelihood of the organisation getting a return on its investment. Methods of gathering the required information, quantitative or qualitative, might include access to statistical evidence on patterns of consumer spending and standard of living, asking customers directly, by telephone or questionnaire, whether they would consider buying a product, testing the product on a small sample to see how attractive it appears. Once this data has been collected, it can be analysed to identify trends and prospective markets.
Unit 8. Assuring Quality. This unit deals with quality control, obtaining ISO 9000, and attaining the 5 elements of customer requirements and the 5 pillars of quality. Many of Coopers Limited's competitors and suppliers have obtained ISO 9000 certification. Those of Cooper's clients who have attained this quality standard are now demanding that their suppliers also indicate the quality of their services by obtaining the standard. Cooper's Managing Director, Eric Walton, is having a meeting with a consultant to discuss how to proceed.
How long does it normally take to get certification?
We usually reckon on 6 to 8 months.
That seems quite long to me.
It can be done faster, but I normally advise a slower process. It helps all participants to adapt to the process. You'll probably find that not everyone is behind you to start with. Employees can be quite cynical. Perhaps if I take you through the stages of obtaining ISO 9000, then we can look at how it can work for Coopers.
Yes, go ahead.
The first step is to create a mission statement for Coopers Limited.
What does that entail?
Well, the mission statement defines your objective and gives it focus. It could be something simple like, here at Coopers, we strive to deliver the highest quality.
I see. What happens next?
The next stage is to determine the outputs.
Meaning?
What does Coopers actually do?
Well, most of our work is in shop fitting.
So, one example of your output is a shop that is ready and open for business.
Yes, I see.
Stage 3 is to define the customer.
That should be straightforward.
Yes, but you mustn't forget it also means internal as well as external customers.
What do you mean by internal customers?
Your employees are internal customers to each other, to you, and you are to them.
Doesn't that just complicate matters?
By respecting internal customers, you ensure that you can deliver the best.
The meeting continues for another hour. By the end of it, they have agreed a timetable for the process, and Eric has arranged a meeting to advise his staff. What is quality?
You have a choice. You can eat at a French restaurant, or you can try the new burger place. Which offers the best quality? Most people will say the French restaurant, but that is not necessarily true. Quality is not about being more exclusive. It is about offering the best product or service for the price charged. The burger you eat may be cheap, but if it fulfills your expectations for the price, then it can be said to offer quality.
Customer requirements and quality. The 5 elements of customer requirements.
Specification. What can I expect from the product or service? Conformity. Is it what I expected? Reliability. Does it continue to do what I want? Value for money. How much do I have to pay for it? Delivery. When can I have it?
And the 5 pillars of quality.
Customer focus, knowing who they are. Total involvement of everyone in the organisation.
measurement of the service, product, systematic support, the supply chain, continuous improvement, making the product better.
Unit 9. Shall we invest in our people? This unit deals with investing in people, obtaining IIP, Investors in People, and NVQ, National Vocational Qualifications, and completing a memo. The partners of Granville, Thompson and Stiles are in the middle of their monthly meeting. Jim Granville is keen to convince his fellow partners of the need to achieve an Investors in People IIP award, and has put it as the second item on the agenda.
I think we're all agreed on the action to be taken. Let's move on now to the next item.
I see. Investors in People. What's this all about, Jim?
I know you both have reservations about IIP. To be honest, I did as well.
You're right there. My impression is that it's a bureaucratic nightmare.
OK, but first hear me out. You're probably aware that two of our best clients have recently achieved it.
Yes, Cooper's and Style has.
Exactly. Well, I had a meeting with Eric at Cooper's last week. He's really pleased with the response they're getting from customers. He also thinks staff morale is higher than it's ever been.
What makes you think it'll work for us? We're not exactly like Cooper's. I don't think for one moment we have a problem with morale.
No, I agree with you. I think our staff are quite satisfied. IIP is about more than happy staff, though. It is a national standard matching skills to business requirements.
But we have that already. All our accountants are fully qualified to meet business requirements.
Our accountants, yes. But what about the remainder of our staff? What about the administrative staff, the secretaries, the receptionist?
I can't see what training they would need.
By supporting them to gain a national vocational qualification, we can improve their skills.
I understand that you can follow an NVQ in anything now.
They've increased the subject areas considerably since IIP first started. In fact, Level 5 is equivalent to many professional qualifications.
If you can get someone in to talk to us about it, I will be happy to hear about the benefits.
OK, I'll arrange it. Now, the next item on the agenda is...
Lifelong learning.
There's the tale of the manager whose decision had just cost his company $10 million. Quaking in his boots, he went in to see his boss, resignation letter in hand. The boss tore up the letter and said, "We just spent $10 million training you. You're not fired. You learned a valuable lesson. Now get back to work."
Investors in People, IIP.
Since it was developed in 1990, more than 14,000 organisations have achieved an Investors in People award. Designed as a national framework for improving business performance and competitiveness, IIP is a quality award aimed at linking training and development to business goals. A National Vocational Qualification, NVQ, is a competence-based assessment of an individual's on-the-job performance. They are available in a growing number of subjects, from customer care to management skills, ranging from Level 1 to Level 5. Investors in People UK are seeking to introduce the award internationally.
Unit 10. Balancing Work and Life. This unit deals with balancing work and life, the concierge service, and completing a concierge service form. Carol Bernasconi works for Americom Incorporated in corporate strategy. She started with them immediately after leaving university 10 years ago, and has reached a point where she wants to do something different, at least for a short while. Carol has a senior position and is worried that her long-term career will suffer. Carol has arranged to see Olive Taylor from Human Resources.
Olive, I need some advice. I've been here 10 years now, and I need a break.
That's okay. Everyone needs a break sometimes. How long are you thinking of?
Oh, I suppose about 3 months would probably help. I'm not expecting it to be paid. It's just, I could really use the time.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard about our new sabbatical scheme? You already qualify for 2 months paid leave with your length of service. Everyone needs time off to recharge their batteries.
Mm-hmm.
The company decided to introduce sabbaticals as part of a work-life balance program, and you've come along at the right time.
There's another thing that worries me, though.
What's that?
Well, if I take time off, isn't it going to appear that I'm not interested in my career? You know my boss, he's a real workaholic. How can I convince him that taking time off doesn't mean that I don't want to progress?
You don't have to worry about that. Maybe he doesn't realize how you feel. This might make him think. Now, how long would you like to take?
I'm still keen on 3 months. Do you think that would be possible?
I think we can probably arrange that. 2 months paid and 1 month unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you the information and the application form. You can go away and think about it and get back to me next week. How does that sound?
That's great. Thank you, Olive.
For your convenience.
A growing industry in the US is the concierge service. For a small sum, someone else will shop for your birthday gifts, wait at your home for a delivery, collect your dry cleaning, or recommend a good restaurant. Organizations are subsidizing this service to assist busy employees in arranging their lives outside work. Cynics might say this is so they can spend yet more time at work.
Work-life balance.
As a term, work-life balance has evolved recently out of the family-friendly initiatives of the early 90s. Although these were primarily aimed at working mothers, work-life balance has a broader appeal. This more inclusive approach now covers a range of initiatives aimed at every employee, irrespective of family commitments. Today's work-life balance programs now consider the entire workforce and offer flexible working to all. This might include part-time working, career breaks, or working from home. There is more understanding of the varying needs of different groups of employees, and also an acceptance that an individual's needs will alter throughout life. Competition to attract and retain staff is one of the main motives behind many such programs. The US is currently suffering from an acute labour shortage, so companies aggressively market themselves as employer of choice.
Unit 11. The Virtual Office. This unit deals with working from home, hotelling, and filling in a telework questionnaire. All of Elecom plc's engineers are supplied with the equipment to allow them complete mobility: a company car, mobile telephone, and a laptop with a modem. The company is now looking at ways to extend this mobility to their other employees. 2 of Elecom's managers are discussing the plans.
I don't mind the idea, but what about the costs involved?
Well, if we look at the cost of office space per employee, it is actually cheaper to provide everyone with the equipment to work from home.
Well, how will we maintain control when all our staff are working at home?
And most of our work can be measured by output. We would still need to look at productivity, and regular contact should be maintained, perhaps once a week.
Surely we need some office space.
Yes, of course. We could reduce workspaces by 50% and still have enough for everyone.
How do we allocate the remaining 50%?
That would need to be booked as required. No one would have their own personal desk anymore.
What about the home environment? It can't be enough to provide equipment and a telephone line, surely.
No, there are other things to consider. Health and safety regulations will need to be complied with. Elecom will also have to contribute towards heating and lighting and insurance costs.
Well, surely that makes it more expensive.
It increases the cost, but it is still cheaper than providing office space.
What if an employee doesn't want to work from home? We mustn't forget some people may need a break from their kids.
And the home environment may not suit everyone, and that is something the company will have to consider. It would be interesting to know what staff think of the proposals. A survey would be useful.
It would be useful to find out what the rest of the management feel too.
Providing that personal touch.
Some companies in the US have created a new term which they call hoteling, providing employees with equipped and furnished workspaces that can be booked by the hour, day or week. To make it more personal, the electronic desktop is customized with the individual's personal photographs or other souvenirs, which are then removed at the end of the session.
Teleworking.
Are technological developments making the formal workplace redundant? The growth in working from home is being led by British Telecom and AT&T. Reducing the number of commuting journeys benefits the environment and saves on overhead costs to organizations. However, it is not all roses. For some, telecommuting brings isolation, disruption to family life, and exclusion from the office network. Some organizations are dealing with these problems by setting up local satellite offices. Employees still have to commute, but the distance is shorter. Once there, they have the benefit of working with colleagues and keeping up to date with the office gossip.
Unit 12. Checking the small print. This unit deals with contracts, reading the small print, and breach of contract. Colin Payne is a self-employed individual trading as ad man. His daughter, Carolyn, helps out in the office occasionally and is keen to learn the ropes. Colin has just received the telephone service agreement from Elecom plc for his new business line and is reading the documentation carefully before he signs. Being a businessman, he is most interested to know what will happen if his telephone breaks down. But what does the small print say?
Now, let's see what this says. We accept liability for delays in providing the service or repairing breakdown or for failing to keep an appointment unless for a reason covered by paragraph 29.
And what does paragraph 29 say?
We shall not be held liable for failure to fulfil our obligation because of circumstances beyond our reasonable control, such as intervention by the government or other competent authority, military action, war or civil unrest, lightning, flood or exceptionally severe weather. Well, they've covered themselves okay there, I suppose.
Is that it?
No, there's more. Unless otherwise stated in our service guarantee, we accept no liability due to our negligence or otherwise for any indirect loss, loss of business revenue or loss in profits or savings. Which means that if my phone doesn't work, I'm stuck.
What if you miss an important client?
Well, I presume I just have to make sure my mobile phone is always working. Now, here's another interesting clause. We reserve the right to change the conditions of this agreement, including our charge at any time. I don't like the sound of that.
No.
Any changes to our charges will be published in the national press at least 2 weeks before they are due to take effect. Well, Elecom hasn't got the monopoly anymore, and there's plenty of competition around. If I'm not satisfied, I can terminate this agreement. Now, how much notice do I need to give? This agreement can be ended by A, 1 month's notice from us to you, B, 7 days' notice from you to us.
That seems clear enough, Dad.
Yes, it's all fairly standard. I might as well sign it.
A not-so-transparent hire charge.
An advertising agency rented a set of transparencies from a picture library. The delivery note contained several conditions in small print, one of which stated a daily overdue charge per transparency. The agency sent the pictures back 14 days late and received an invoice for £3,500. The library's court action failed because it had not brought such an unusual and exorbitant charge to the attention of the agency.
What's in a contract?
It is often assumed that a contract is only valid if it is in writing. Whilst the written form is the more usual, a contract may also arise from a verbal agreement or be implied from the conduct of the parties. Certain types of contract, such as consumer credit agreements, must be in writing. In order for a contract to be a legally binding agreement, it must contain the following elements. There must be an offer and an acceptance. There must be consideration, i.e., something must be offered in exchange for something else. There must be an intention to create legal relations. Breach of contract may result if one of the parties fails to deliver on the agreement. In this case, the wronged party may be able to seek damages in a court of law.
Unit 13. Stylehouse rethinks its marketing strategy. This unit deals with marketing and promotion, applying brand names, using SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and completing a SWOT analysis. The majority of Stylehouse's shops are run under franchised licenses, but decisions on marketing are made centrally. Janet Barker, Head of Marketing Strategy, discusses the latest figures with David Gouldstone, the sales manager.
Looking at the figures, it seems we're not doing as well on lighting. Do you think we have the right product range?
Well, the more expensive lighting systems are not moving as rapidly as before. It could be a question of price, or it could simply be design.
It's interesting that soft furnishings are 25% up on the last quarter. What do you make of that?
Our customer base has shifted slightly. Domestic sales have increased to 14% of total sales.
That's good. We need to expand our market. What about the next series of shops? Location is critical if we're going to attract a different clientele.
I agree, but it's not just location. I think we need to consider mail order again.
Yes, perhaps that's worth doing. How are we promoting ourselves? We've concentrated on the corporate market so far, and ideally that will continue to grow. But what if it doesn't? If the next recession comes, we might regret not developing the domestic market.
If there is another big recession, it will also affect that market.
Whatever the economic situation, there is always a supply of individuals with sufficient money to spend. Related to housing costs, people who buy in Mayfair are not going to cut costs when decorating.
That may be true, but first we have to make ourselves their preferred supplier.
We have to change our image, promote our exclusivity.
Do you think that is something we still offer? We now have 80 franchises. I'm not sure that promotes the individual look.
Let's look again at how those figures break down.
What's in a brand?
Coca-Cola is a brand recognized throughout the world, with some 60% of its sales coming from outside the United States. The distinctive red and white logo is so closely identified with the all-American image that it has acquired political status in countries antagonistic to the U.S. This has led to its restriction in significant markets such as China.
How important is marketing?
The purpose of marketing is to gain and keep customers. One part of this is achieved by attributing desirable values to the product or service which will become lodged in the customer's mind. This is known as branding. The marketing mix is made up of 4 components: product, price, place, and promotion. Successful marketing involves identifying the correct mix to achieve the most sales. The product may be excellent, but if the price is wrong, it will not sell. Another part of the preparation involves doing a SWOT analysis. This looks at the strengths and weaknesses behind the product or service, internal factors, and the opportunities and threats that will influence success, the external factors.
Unit 14. The Sales Conference. This unit deals with selling, attending a sales conference, making sales, and completing a business letter. We're at Americom Incorporated's annual sales conference in Dallas. The company has had an excellent year, following substantial growth in the electronics industry, and Zach Douglas, Americom's president, is presenting the results and the awards.
Overall profits are up by 49%. We now have 68% market share, an increase of 20% on last year. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, the part of the conference that really fires us all up. It gives me great pleasure to present this year's awards for top sales, starting in reverse order. In 3rd position, I'd like y'all to give a big hand for Amy Carter. Would you step up here, Amy?
Thank you.
As you know, Amy only joined Americom 18 months ago and has already achieved 65% over target. Now, Amy, tell us how you did it.
I can't take the praise on my own. I couldn't have managed without the guys in my team.
Let's hear a big cheer for them. In 2nd position, we have Jeff Allen. Jeff is here for the 3rd year running and has this year managed to double his target. Tell us how you feel, Jeff.
It's great. Just great. I'm really pleased to be here again.
And we look forward to seeing you up here next year. Who do we have in top position? The first prize this year, a Bahamian cruise, and $10,000 goes to the salesperson who managed an incredible 175% over target. Let's hear it for Carol Ann Smith. How'd you feel, Carol Ann?
I'm staggered. I really can't believe we pulled it off.
I'm sure everyone out there is listening avidly to learn your secret. Whatever it is, I'd like you to bottle it. I'm sure it would make great sales.
A strong team, an excellent product, and a certain amount of luck.
Well done, anyway, and enjoy the cruise.
Thank you very much.
We'll have a short break for refreshments now. They're being served in the large hall adjacent to the ornamental gardens.
sell the product or sell what the product does?
Do you sell an electric drill or do you sell the hole it makes? Lateral thinking can be a positive asset in sales talk. By thinking about what the customer might actually want, in this case a hole, it will be easier to sell the tool for creating the hole. After all, if holes could be bought over the counter, drills would not be needed at all.
Making sales.
The job of the sales force is not easy. As the primary source of revenue, they also provide the vital link between a company and its customers. Apart from finding prospects and making deals, they also need to handle complaints and objections and solve problems. After all, existing customers offer one of the best sources of repeat business, and getting that business in the first place took time. Order taking is the most passive form of sales, and active selling demands much more. One of the hardest ways to drum up new business must be cold calling, and even experienced salespeople may find they don't relish this approach. Following up leads or referrals may make this easier by providing a warm link to get a foot in the door, but the salesperson still has the job of persuading the customer to buy. A strong sales team also needs good support, and the confidence that when they promise something, it can be delivered. In the tough world of competition, a good sales team may mean the difference between survival and extinction.
Unit 15. Advertising. This unit deals with advertising, creating a mail order service, the art of pigeonholing, and writing an advertisement using AIDA, attention, interest, desire, act, and USP, unique selling point. Stylehouse is launching its new mail order service. Aimed at increasing domestic sales, the advertising campaign has to be carefully planned. Janet Barker and David Gouldstone are discussing their needs with Daisy Roberts, an advertising consultant.
This is a new venture for us in more ways than one. Our primary customer base has so far been corporate clients. Domestic sales have been more incidental, but now we want to capitalise on that market.
Who's your average domestic customer?
ABs. Professionals in their 30s and 40s. High disposable income, design conscious, trendy.
And computer literates?
Highly likely.
Have you thought of advertising on the web?
We haven't developed our website yet, but it's a possibility.
What about image? How do you want to come across?
Exclusive? Minimalist? Chic? Bright? Something along these lines.
What about media? Where do you want to be seen?
We're thinking of a poster and magazine campaign.
What about TV or cinema?
I don't feel that's right just yet. It's also a question of cost. Our budget is not exactly huge.
I suspect trend and image magazines will be a good starting point. I'll check out their rates. If you give me your catalogue, I'll draft a couple of suggestions for copy.
We can get those to you later today. The design team is just putting the final touches to the catalogue. Will it be okay if we bike them round to you by close of business?
That's fine. I can run through the proposals with you on Friday and give you an estimate for the campaign.
My diary's quite full, but I could squeeze in an hour in the afternoon. Shall we say 4?
The art of pigeonholing.
A to E is just one way advertisers like to put their customers into pigeonholes. By dividing the population into groups using classifiers such as income, social class, professional and educational level, they hope to better target their message. The groups break down as A. Higher managerial, administrative or professional. B. Intermediate managerial, administrative or professional. C1, supervisor or clerical, junior managerial, administrative or professional. C2, skilled manual workers. D, semi and unskilled workers. E, all those entirely dependent on the state long term through sickness, unemployment, old age or other reasons.
Writing your advertisement.
Choose your words carefully. Some have a positive effect and excite interest. Others send negative signals. New, free, love, results, and bargain all fall into the first category, and advertising is peppered with them. You won't see words such as death, risk, bill, accident, and fail, however, which are all examples of what to avoid. What does the advertisement need to do? AIDA is a useful mnemonic spelling out the 4 essential ingredients good copy must contain. An advert must be able to grab attention in the brief instant available. It then has to keep the reader's interest for long enough to get your message across. Does it create desire? If so, you might have a sale, but do not forget to tell the reader how to act, where to buy the product, who to phone. Last but not least, do not forget your USP. Make sure you tell everyone what the unique selling point of your product or service is that makes it different to everything else on offer.
CD2. Unit 16. Beating the virus. This unit deals with computer viruses, systems failures, and the problem of computer hackers. Carl Flint, the office manager at Granville, Thompson & Stiles, is telephoning Robert Bridges, who works in the emergency support team at Elecom plc as a senior IT specialist.
Good morning, Elecom System Support. Robert Bridges speaking. How can I help?
Morning, Bob. It's Carl here. I'm in a fix. We have a complete systems failure over at Moorgate, which we can't identify. Our systems engineer is on leave at the moment, and there's no one here who can help.
Go on. What's happened?
One of the partners was in early this morning. She was using the system from 7:30 until shortly before 8, when it crashed. Her story is that the screen appeared to melt and then went off like a firework display before going blank. All the PCs on the intranet are now showing the same symptoms. It seems the entire system has been affected.
Tell me, was your colleague working on the internet at the time?
I should imagine she checked her messages when she logged on, yes.
Have you heard of wipeout?
No? What is it?
I don't want to alarm you too much before I can do a proper diagnosis of the problem, but a virus with the symptoms you describe has just hit the net. It seems to have originated in the States on Friday and has rapidly spread by attaching itself to outgoing emails.
How does it strike?
The symptoms you have described seem to fit the bill. It comes in as an attachment on an email from a known source. The recipient opens the attachment and...
And the rest is history.
The first victims appear to have been Microsoft and a number of other Fortune 500 companies. It caused chaos by crashing entire networks and disabling the systems for the entire business day. It has cost Microsoft alone millions to rectify.
What on earth can we do now?
Don't do anything at all until I get down there. there is a solution, thanks to the Americans, and I'll bring it with me.
Oh, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate your help.
Virus writing is serious business.
According to one such artist, virus writing allows creative expression. Despite sleepless nights fed by caffeine and the threat of a conviction if caught, it allows virus writers to play God and pretend to be villains. They even have their own annual convention. Above all, it creates business for software companies who keep ahead of the game by producing the latest antivirus software.
Computer viruses.
Cyberspace does not respect national security, commercial sensitivity, or individual privacy. Increasing reliance on information technology with all the benefits it brings comes with a hefty price tag. However successful an organization may be, its Achilles heel lies with its dependence on information systems. The price tag is the cost of fighting computerized fraud or sabotage and of rectifying what may run into millions of pounds or dollars worth of damage. Aside from the danger of internal interference, any of today's organizations are potentially at risk from hackers, computer viruses, or other forms of disruption. Computer viruses vary in impact and sophistication. The less harmful may prove more inconvenient than destructive, perhaps causing strange or inappropriate messages to appear on screen. The most dangerous can cause entire systems to crash or may introduce software bugs whose presence remains undetected until serious damage has been done. Organizations running an intranet or those with access to the internet may find hackers can enter the system, steal information, or leave a destructive bug. Files downloaded from the internet may be corrupt. Unauthorized emails may contain the seed of destruction. For businesses everywhere, the battles have just begun.
Unit 17. Managing the Crisis. This unit deals with successful public relations, the role of spin doctors, and managing a crisis. The board of Elecom plc has been having a rough time lately. The share price has plummeted, the financial director has been suspended, and a former employee is taking the company to an employment tribunal. On top of this, there is the threat of industrial action. Help may be at hand in the guise of public relations specialist Colin Payne.
So, you see, Colin, we have a bit of an image problem at the moment.
Yes, I've been following your share price this week. The city certainly appears to have got the jitters.
That's always the first place it shows. We need to bring the value back up to last year's level before it goes into a downward spiral. Last night's AGM was a public relations disaster. It was a mistake not to call you in beforehand. Now it's a case of urgent damage limitation.
We need to divert attention long enough to give you time to sort things out. Now remember, the public has a short memory. We need to highlight something positive about Elecom that will enhance your reputation.
There are two things we could use. The first is the opening of our new call centre on Tyneside. The second is the launch of our free internet service.
So you have job creation and public service in one hit. How much is known about these plans?
Very little. The location for the call centre was only approved this morning. Obviously, there's been speculation while we've been researching locations.
How many jobs will it create?
We plan to start with 200 and expand it to 1,000 within 3 years.
Will it mean job losses anywhere else?
None whatsoever.
And what about the internet service?
It's a combined offer to customers. Free internet access and reduced price local calls.
I think we should promote both those items to maximum effect. I'll draft a press release and we can discuss timing. Are you free at 12?
The spin doctors.
Alluding to the spin given to a ball to confuse the opponent of its true direction, the term is frequently used in a pejorative sense to describe political public relations advisors. Often vilified in the press, the spin doctor can become the embodiment for the inclination of politicians to be sparing with the truth.
The story's good, but is it true?
Public relations have gained a poor reputation, but is it entirely fair? When things go drastically wrong, there is little doubt that someone needs to pick up the pieces, and in many cases, this will be the public relations specialist. Better, then, to have one focal point for disseminating information rather than a series of sometimes conflicting and potentially misleading interviews with assorted spokespeople. Crisis management is one aspect of public relations that has a high profile in many leading organizations. Deciding on a comprehensive strategy that can be applied in the event of a crisis will allow senior management to concentrate on tackling the problem rather than simply firefighting. A carefully planned and properly executed crisis management plan may make all the difference.
Unit 18. Collecting Payment. This unit deals with late payments, added interest, managing credit, and collecting payment on an overdue account. Coopers Limited is having a difficult time financially. The bank manager has been on the phone wanting to discuss the size of the overdraft. With the figures well and truly in the red, Eric Walton has asked his accounts manager, Elaine Walker, to do some chasing.
Good morning, Stylehouse. How may I help you?
Good morning. This is Elaine Walker from Coopers. I'd like to speak to someone in your accounts department.
Just connecting you.
Hello? Ed Austin here. How can I help?
I'm calling from Coopers about an overdue account. Shall I give you the details?
Yes, go ahead.
Our invoice number is 11299 and your purchase order number is XZ623.
I'll just get the details up on my screen, if you'll bear with me a moment. Yes, Coopers. Can you confirm the amount outstanding?
It's now £22,306. This includes interest we've added since last month.
That's not the figure I have. This invoice is for £21,761.95.
You'll notice that our terms are 30 days net. After that, we add interest daily to all overdue accounts. £22,306 reflects that addition. We advised you of this in our last letter.
I'm not sure about this. I need to speak to my manager.
That's okay. I'll hold the line.
A few moments later.
Sarah Barton, accounts supervisor. I hear you have a problem with your account.
The problem we have with our account is that Stylehouse has not paid it. Can you tell me what the problem is and when we can expect payment?
I can't see why you haven't received payment already. I'll need to look into this and get back to you. Can I take your number?
My number is 0208 777 9999. I need your answer today, though. We've sent you 3 reminder letters so far, and we will be taking further action if the account is not settled promptly.
I promise I'll call you back before 5 p.m.
Added interest.
Small businesses suffer most from late payment, but UK legislation now permits them to add interest charges to overdue accounts. Aim to change the culture of late payment exercised by big corporations in the interest of their own cash flow. Small firms can charge interest at 8% over the base rate.
Managing credit.
Good credit management may be a company's saving grace and is vital to maintaining a healthy cash flow. It is important to establish a credit policy with all clients which clearly communicates details of credit terms, how much credit is allowed and when payment will become due. If payment is still not forthcoming after polite and insistent requests, it may be time to enlist the help of outside agencies. This may involve a brief letter from a solicitor, or it may involve a debt collection agency. Prevention is better than cure. Checking a client's credit rating to determine credit limits is essential, but it is also important to keep a weather eye on that company's financial health before will not pay becomes cannot pay.
Unit 19. Stylehouse goes online. This unit deals with going online, designing websites, internet cookies, and understanding websites. Stylehouse has raised its profile by opening up more franchised outlets, but it does not yet have a presence on the World Wide Web. Alex Brown is meeting with Stephen Roberts, a representative from Elecom plc's web design team.
Tell me about the benefits of having a website.
Well, for one, you need to consider the competition. If the other guys are doing it, you're going to be left behind. You really need to keep ahead.
I know Zigmat has just launched a website.
You have to look at the cost savings involved. The web provides you with a virtual showroom, which can be accessed at any time and from anywhere. A global presence without opening a single outlet outside the UK.
Surely people don't browse through a website in the same way as they do in a shop.
Not exactly in the same way, perhaps, but a well-designed and attractive site can still persuade them to buy.
Isn't there too much risk involved in buying online? I can't imagine many people would be happy to provide their credit card details in this way.
Online security is pretty good these days. Providing the information is supplied in a securely encrypted format, it's as safe as buying in a shop or over a telephone. You only have to look at the growth of e-commerce to see how it's shaping the future. US sales alone are now quite staggering.
I still don't quite see how it would work. Would we need to put our entire catalogue online?
Not necessarily. The important thing with websites is to consider the audience. If it takes too long to download, or if the site contains too much information or is confusing to navigate, people will get frustrated and wander off to a competitor's site.
So it needs to be simple and effective.
It's also a good customer service tool. You can provide help and tips, as well as a frequently asked questions FAQ page. It can also build customer loyalty.
I think you've talked me round. If you can come up with a short report on what the likely cost will be, I'll discuss it with the board next week and see what kind of budget we can have.
What is a cookie?
Bearing no relation to the biscuit barrel in your kitchen, an internet cookie is a text file placed on your computer when you visit a website. The cookie is then used to monitor the number of times an individual accesses that website and can also retain personal information about your buying habits.
What makes a good website?
It is essential to identify your target audience before starting to think about designing the website. What will it be used for? Is it primarily promotional? Should it offer two-way communication so that your customers can contact you? Will it be used to complement your existing customer options? Once you have set your objectives, you need to consider the content. This is the time to make use of the capabilities offered by the web, such as interactivity and dynamism, and not to treat it simply as another way of reproducing existing brochures. Web content should be clear and attractive. It should be easy for users to navigate the site and access the information they need. A site that takes a long time to download runs the risk of deterring visitors from staying around. You should seek to encourage people to visit your site regularly by keeping the content fresh and up to date. A good website is a long-term commitment.
Unit 20. Americom looks at the labour market. This unit deals with the labour market, the role of human resources, and the problems facing high school leavers or graduates. Americom Incorporated's business is in the fast-growing area of information technology, IT. Sales are rocketing, and in anticipation of this trend continuing, the board has given approval for a new call centre. It is now up to the human resources, HR team, to come up with a shortlist for the best locations.
It needs to be near headquarters.
Yeah, I'm not so sure distance is so critical, and I don't think Chicago has the capacity anymore.
We could go east and hit Detroit, or look to the west and check out Minneapolis.
Let's decide on all our criteria first. If we're opening 24/7, we need both shift workers and part-timers. Flexibility is a must.
Skills level is important too. We need sound basic skills, but we also need folk with some development potential.
We should look at local employment traditions too. If the area has been mainly industrial, how adaptable is the workforce likely to be?
And we need to check out unemployment levels. How big is the available labor pool?
How stable is the local population? Is there much movement into and out of the area?
It should be attractive. People must be happy to live nearby. Research shows call center workers don't go for big commutes.
The local infrastructure is crucial. Transport and communication systems need to be checked out. That was an oversight of Elecom's when they opened in Dublin.
Sure, they got stung with huge commuting delays.
That's right, and it took ages to sort it out. Is there anything else we haven't covered?
There's one major aspect. What's the competition like? Who's hiring and firing? Who's moving their business to the area?
There's a lot of research work here. I don't think we can handle it in the time available. I think you're right about using an agency.
Starting with a McJob.
For today's graduates or high school leavers, competition for good jobs is tough. Many will also have worked part-time to fund themselves through university or college, often in menial jobs in the service industry. The McJob? Nicknamed after a famous hamburger chain, it is any easily gained employment that pays a wage but does not require a high level of skills and is not seen as a long-term commitment.
The changing world of work.
Work is changing, and so are the workers. Demographic studies indicated the impact of the lower birth rate some years ago. As fewer young people enter the labour market, the baby boomer generation is starting to retire, but it may not be long before the retirement age is raised to accommodate this shortage. Traditional jobs in manufacturing and industry have been shrinking in the developed world, whilst work in areas such as service and information technology continues to grow. Despite this growth, however, many of the jobs on offer are temporary or part-time, particularly in the service industry. The number of people leaving higher education has expanded, producing more graduates, but the jobs to match their skills remain elusive. Many organizations now have flatter structures following earlier trends of downsizing. With fewer layers of management, the traditional career paths for graduates have altered. The job seeker of the future will need to be flexible and constantly seek to acquire new skills in order to retain marketability.
Unit 21. The VAT man will be calling. This unit deals with taxation, paying VAT, value-added tax, government tax levying and fiscal policies, and filling in a bank statement. The end of the financial year approaches at Coopers Limited. The VAT return is due, and despite the immaculate record-keeping of accounts manager Elaine Walker, the figures are not looking good. The VAT inspector is due in 7 days' time, and both Eric Walton, the managing director, and Elaine are going over the accounts.
What's this figure here?
That is the total for output VAT. All the VAT we've added to our outgoing invoices to customers.
And this one?
That represents the input total. All the VAT we've paid on goods and services that we've bought.
Oh, there's quite a big difference between them. £22,900 in outputs and £13,455 in inputs. This means we already owe more VAT than we're claiming back.
Yes, and that's not the worst of it. The problem is that output VAT becomes payable to Customs and Excise the instant we raise an invoice, not when we receive payment for that invoice.
What about bad debts? Surely they don't attract VAT.
In this case, a debt is only considered bad when it's still not settled after 6 months. So if our debts are only 4 months old, Customs and Excise still expect the money.
What percentage of the 22,900 have we received payment on?
22,900 VAT represents sales of £130,857.
Mm-hmm.
We have invoiced our customers £153,757, of which £22,900 is VAT at 17.5%. To date, we've only received £59,820, which represents £10,476 VAT.
So, offsetting output VAT of 22,900 against input VAT of 13,445, we now owe the taxman 9,455, irrespective of whether our debts have been paid or not.
Exactly.
I'd better get on to that bank manager again.
Raising finances.
Just as modern governments raise money by levying taxes on popular commodities such as alcohol and tobacco, so earlier regimes looked for imaginative sources for additional funding. Some of the most unusual were a tax on hearths in 17th century England and a French tax on windows and doors. The latter was finally abolished at the beginning of the 20th century.
Getting good advice.
Accountants and tax advisors are the least likely candidates for redundancy. Like plumbers and doctors, they will always have work. A good accountant can save a business money by making sure that only the right amount of tax is paid and all possible tax allowances are used. A fine line is sometimes drawn between the legal use of tax loopholes and what may be considered to be tax evasion. Understanding tax law can be just as complicated as any other legal area, with both parties in a dispute arguing endlessly over the precise details. Governments sometimes make use of fiscal policy to adjust extremes in the economy. By raising taxes, they can curb consumer spending and cool down an economy that is in danger of overheating. A stagnant economy may be given a boost by lowering taxes to encourage consumer spending. In both cases, fiscal measures will be just one of the steps a government may take.
Unit 22. Is it worth registering? This unit deals with the registration of trademarks, including unusual trademarks, and the granting of patents. Colin Payne runs the press and public relations business AdMan. Among the services he offers his clients is a public relations management package which he calls Pressage. Colin wonders whether he should register Pressage as a trademark. An initial consultation with trademark agent Amanda Wolfe should give him some answers.
I'm not really sure about the benefits of having a trademark, so I don't know whether I need one or not.
A trademark distinguishes the goods and services of one business from those of another. It helps create a brand awareness and could even end up being of real financial value to you. And unlike a patent, you can hold a trademark indefinitely, provided you continue to pay renewal fees.
Well, let's assume that I decide to register Pressage. What's my next step?
First, we would need to establish whether it meets the legal definition. Can it be represented graphically, and does it distinguish your services from those of another? Can you show me what it looks like?
Yep, this is it.
And you've been using this to describe a management service?
Yes, for about a year now.
One of the first things we would need to do is to run a search in the trademark register to see whether someone else has registered something similar in that class.
Which class?
Probably number 35. This covers business services. There are 42 classes of goods and services in all. They range from chemicals to leisure and education, so it's unlikely you would need to register in all classes.
Assuming the search is okay, what happens next?
If Pressage is able to be registered, we would publish it in the Trademarks Journal. If no opposition is filed within 3 months, then Pressage is officially yours and you receive a certificate to confirm that your trademark has a protection period of 10 years.
Well, that seems clear enough. I think I'd like to go ahead.
Unusual trademarks?
A trademark can be virtually anything, provided it is unique to your business. The most obvious are perhaps words, for example, Kodak, logos, for example, McDonald's Golden M, and shapes, for example, the Coca-Cola bottle. However, you can also register jingles, for example, the Bacardi tune, numbers such as Chanel No. 5, and surnames, for example, Lacoste. More unusual are smells. For example, Unicorn's smell of bitter beer apply to flights for darts, and colors, for example, Reckitt and Coleman's use of the color turquoise apply to their packaging and labeling.
Intellectual property.
An organization holds a variety of assets, tangible assets such as property and buildings, and intangible assets such as goodwill and intellectual property. In order to protect its intellectual property from theft and plagiarism, there are a number of legal safeguards that can be used. The granting of a patent confers monopoly rights, enabling the inventor to enjoy the profits of an invention for a fixed period, usually between 17 and 20 years. To qualify for a patent, the specification must describe something that is not just new, but inventive. A design relates to the external appearance of an article. The design should not be purely functional, and should be a truly aesthetic standalone design, which competitors do not need to copy in order to compete. Once registered, a design confers monopoly rights for a maximum of 25 years.
Unit 23. From Design to Product. This unit deals with product design, the role of R&D, research and development teams, the origins of granting patents, and JIT, just-in-time manufacturing. Elecom plc's research and development R&D team, consisting of James Marshall and Michael Hurley, have been creative again. This time they have designed a gadget, Wavebeat, which is about the size of a credit card. When attached to mobile phones, it eliminates the low-level microwaves that are produced. The invention is already patented. So Elecom can now approach manufacturers safe in the knowledge that the invention cannot be copied. Susan Challen is from a large manufacturing company and is considering their proposal.
This is the prototype for WaveBeat. We're convinced it will do exceptionally well. There's now very great concern over the health hazards of mobile phones.
It's very sleek. How does it attach to a phone?
It's quite simple. The strip on the back has both magnetic and adhesive properties, so it should stick to most makes of mobile phone and certainly everything in Elecom's product range.
How does it actually work?
It soaks up the waves and disables them.
Sounds clever. And it's light, too. I imagine you're thinking of producing quite a few of these. What figure do you have in mind?
Somewhere in the region of 1 million to start with. As you implied, the potential market is huge and we don't want to be caught short.
What about price range?
Obviously, that depends on production costs, but we expect them to retail at about £15 per item.
When do you anticipate launch date?
As soon as you can come up with the goods. How long do you think it might take?
Well, it looks similar in scale to the smart cards we produce, but it depends on the actual makeup. If the process is straightforward, we could turn it around in about 5 weeks.
Well, that sounds reasonable. Now, what about cost?
I can't give you a figure off the top of my head, but if you leave the details with me, I can get an estimate to you by tomorrow.
That's good. When do you think you could actually start production?
Hard to say. Perhaps by the middle of next week. We're finishing a big order on Friday, but it depends on how long it takes to set everything up for your product.
Protecting inventions.
Although the origins of granting patents on inventions are imprecise, some of the oldest can be traced back to England, where there is a continuous history extending from the 15th century. The earliest known patent was granted in 1449 for a stained glass manufacturing process. Not all patent applications were successful, however. Elizabeth I refused to grant a patent on a design for a water closet on the grounds of propriety.
Just in time.
Just in time, JIT, manufacturing, is one example of a process that would be impossible without the use of sophisticated computer systems combining information on sales, inventory, and future product requirements. By maintaining exact and current information on the number of items in stock and the number of items sold, just-in-time manufacturing systems can produce the right amount of the product at the right time, thereby avoiding overproduction. The client benefits from lower storage costs and does not have to invest huge amounts in inactive stock. There are many other advantages to the system. By linking production to requirements, just-in-time manufacturing reduces surplus and enables more regular changes in design as well as faster responses to address any quality problems. It is not good news for everyone, however. The success of just-in-time manufacturing is linked to economies of scale. For smaller manufacturers or those with a broader product base, the cost and time involved are less likely to make it cost-effective.
Unit 24. Coopers is in financial trouble. This unit deals with financial difficulties, being in debt, and filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the USA. In 6 months, Coopers Limited's overdraft has risen from £250,000 to £1.5 million. Although the company has plenty of ongoing work and a steady stream of inquiries, recent bad debts have amounted to more than £750,000. High interest rates are compounding the problem. Eric Walton is in an urgent meeting called by the bank manager, Richard Kerr.
It's getting too serious, Eric. We can't continue to support this level of overdraft any longer. We're going to have to take action.
What kind of action?
We're considering an administrative order.
What? You're going to call in the receiver? You can't pull the plug on us like that. Look at our order book. Look at the money that is due to us. We're tendering for 3 jobs at the moment with a total value of £4 million. And we have a regular contract with Stylehouse who are increasing their retail outlets.
Look, we don't want to do this either, but you've got to look at it from the bank's point of view. Your debt is escalating to the point where we no longer feel that your assets can cover it.
Cooper's is a solid firm. We employ 50 staff. We've been going since 1894. We have a lot of goodwill and we're an important part of the community.
And you also have a high level of debt. Let's face it, Eric, those bad debts haven't done you any favours. And it's difficult to see how you're going to recoup the loss.
We certainly won't recoup it if you wind us up. There has to be another solution. What about increasing my personal guarantee?
Eric, you've already mortgaged your house. You need to think carefully before offering any additional security.
I can't just let the bank destroy my business. Look, there has to be another way.
There might be another alternative. You could call in an insolvency practitioner and agree a company voluntary arrangement.
Which involves what?
If you can reach agreement with your creditors to accept less than you owe them, you might have a chance to improve your cash flow while you collect your own debts.
I don't see that I have much alternative.
Adopting the ostrich position.
Some business people ignore problems in the hope that they will simply go away. An administrative receiver who was once called into a retail chemist found half-empty shelves with outdated stock, electricity disconnection notices, and correspondence that had been waiting to be mailed for the past 10 years.
Running into difficulties.
The U.S. takes an approach that is perhaps more accommodating towards businesses that run into financial difficulties than that taken in the U.K. In the U.S., a corporation can file for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which affords it a certain level of protection from its debts. This means a business can continue operating while it makes provision to settle the debts. Although a business's creditors need to approve the reorganization plan, they do not generally have absolute veto powers if they do not agree with it. The reorganization plan amounts to a proposal to creditors explaining how the organization intends to pay off its debts. Repayment may take several years, and the bankruptcy is only discharged when the plan is complete. The costs in terms of legal and financial advice make filing for Chapter 11 an expensive proposal, but with the possibility of the business surviving in the end, it is one that many businesses would be mistaken not to consider.
Unit 25. Will Americom branch out? This unit deals with corporate expansion, diversification, and creating a diversified portfolio. Americom Incorporated is very successful in the field of telecommunications and has already expanded its market to include cell phones and internet services. Although there is some diversification, it is not sufficiently broad to satisfy some of the company's more risk-averse shareholders. The board is in discussion about possible expansion.
Now that we've heard the proposal from the financial analysts, let's have a brainstorming session. I want to hear what you folks have to say. We can assess our ideas later. Simon, can you get the ball rolling? Where do you think we should go?
It's a bit of a departure, but we could link up with, say, Ambank and sell financial products via our internet service.
That's a new idea. What's your suggestion, Olivia?
I favor vertical integration. We could develop service telecenters. It's an extension of our current services and would supply a growing demand.
Mm-hmm. And Sam?
My idea is not so radical. I'm more in favor of horizontal integration. I don't feel the time is right to enter a different market, but would recommend concentrating on our overseas expansion whilst remaining in the same market.
Yeah, we should look at what's on the market and consider something very different. Perhaps look at entertainment or broadcasting.
I guess any of these link in well with what we currently offer. I'd like you to develop your ideas and get back to me with full proposals. The AGM is fast approaching, and it would be good to have something new for the shareholders to consider.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Many companies will spread the risk against a prime market collapsing by diversifying into new and sometimes unrelated markets. Richard Branson's Virgin Group is one such example of diversification. With its origins in the music business, Virgin moved into air and rail transportation, financial products, mobile phones, and cosmetics. A truly mixed portfolio.
A good example of a large public company is General Electric.
GE was formed from an early merger in 1892 between the Edison Electric Light Company and the Thomson-Houston Electric Company. It was listed in the original Dow Jones Index of 1896 and is the only company from that time remaining in the list today. Anyone lucky enough to have invested before 1926 would find a single share now worth 1,536 shares. With operations in more than 100 countries, GE employs nearly 300,000 staff worldwide. Perhaps a major contributor to GE's success is its diverse business portfolio. Most of us will probably think of domestic appliances and aircraft engines first, two diverse industries in their own right. But GE's portfolio does not stop there and includes lighting, plastics, and transportation systems. It even has a stake in NBC, the American Broadcasting Company. What can the next 100 years bring?
Unit 26. Free market economy or government regulation? This unit deals with deregulation and the advantages and disadvantages of a free market economy, government regulation and privatization. At an international networking event in Manchester, 3 individuals are discussing the economy. George is American. Sarah is British, and Ulrich is German. They do not see eye to eye on everything.
More government restrictions. You have so much red tape in this country.
Well, perhaps we do have more regulations than you. A lot of them come from Brussels.
Business should be self-regulating. It's no place for government.
I disagree. Whilst no one wants to see an increase in red tape, there has to be some regulation by government. Industry can be ineffective when it comes to self-regulation.
You can't have a free market economy and then restrict it with rules and regulations.
And you can't have a completely free market for every Tom, Dick and Harry to set up in business. What about the public?
The public can protect itself. It doesn't need this paternalistic approach. There's way too much bureaucracy coming out of Brussels.
You have regulations in the States, too.
Sure. And to my mind, we have too many, but even that's nothing like what you have over here.
If I may make a point here.
Sure. Let's hear what you guys think.
I can't say I speak for all Germans, but I do think the public needs protection. Imagine what would happen if you removed all regulations from the construction industry. What kind of safety record would there be?
I wasn't recommending complete deregulation. I accept in some industries a little control may be needed.
And what about the professions? The public needs to know whether an accountant is properly qualified.
That's just my point. Accountants have their own professional body to regulate them.
But what stops anyone from calling himself an accountant and setting up in business? The art of good government is to combine enough regulation to protect the public without stifling business.
Where have all the buses gone?
The 1980s and 1990s were a time of massive deregulation and privatisation in the UK. Some of the effects can be viewed as beneficial, some verge on the bizarre. Scottish buses are now operated by a large number of different companies, each one desperate for passengers. How do they manage? It's easy. The first bus to the stop scoops up anyone who's waiting. The later one misses them. The result is that hardly any buses run to a timetable and the buses arrive earlier and earlier.
Deregulation and privatisation.
Like everything else, economic fashions also change. The earlier part of the 20th century saw the nationalisation of many industries. The latter half has seen many of them privatised again. Even natural monopolies, such as public utilities, that were once considered safer in government hands, have been divided up and sold off. Increased competition has brought some benefits for the consumer. Deregulation of the airline industry in the US, where a number of private airlines operated price-fixing policies keeping fares high, has resulted in an explosion of smaller airlines, offering no-frills travel for a fraction of the original price. Some of these have gone on to become hugely successful, while certain larger airlines have disappeared from sight.
Unit 27. The deal might be off. This unit deals with different types of mergers, takeover bids, and the selling of assets. Nicola Smith and Leslie Fradley, two employees of Elecom plc, are listening to an announcement on the news.
The government has stated it is to investigate the planned merger between Elecom plc and Americom Incorporated.
Uh-oh. Sounds like we're in trouble again.
After receiving complaints from a number of telecommunications companies, both in Britain and in Europe, expressing concerns...
If the merger's called off now, quite a few faces will have egg on them.
The government has decided to refer the matter to the Competition Commission.
Didn't the Competition Commission used to be called the Monopolies and Mergers Commission?
That's right.
The whole business is just like the BA American situation. They didn't like the idea of one company having so much power.
Elecom's chairman, Ian Smith, defended the deal, saying that it would provide the consumer with significant benefits.
I don't suppose he mentioned the job cuts.
He went on to say that in a global market, it was essential for companies to offer the consumer the best value for money.
By getting rid of staff?
By creating synergies within the industry.
I wish they wouldn't use that word. It doesn't belong in business.
And now for the rest of the business news.
Turn it off. Can't stand listening anymore.
What do you think will happen if the CC turns it down?
I suppose it will mean Elecom will be preyed upon by someone else. Once it's known we'll agree to a merger, it won't take long before there's another bid.
But who would be a possibility?
There's always DIS-AG. At least that would make it a European venture.
I suppose that would be a natural choice, though I can't help thinking the American deal might be better in the long term.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Stripping the assets.
A frequent motive behind many US and UK takeovers is to sell off the assets of the acquired company. If a company's stock market value is assessed at less than its combined real assets, such as land and capital equipment, it may become vulnerable to hostile takeover bids, which will result in the company's demise, as it is closed down and its assets are sold off.
Different types of merger.
Assuming Company A is a manufacturer of goods, in vertical forward integration, it merges with another company that is higher up the production line and closer to the customer. Company B might be a retailer of Company A's goods. In vertical backward integration, the reverse applies, and Company A merges with a supplier of raw materials. Therefore, if Company A manufactures toys from plastic, it might merge with Company B, which supplies the ingredients for the plastic. Horizontal integration means that Company A merges with another at the same level of production and in the same market. In this case, Company B would also be a manufacturer of toys. Conglomerate integration would occur if Company A decides to enter a new market and merge with or take over Company B, which manufactures lawnmowers.
Unit 28. Arguing the case for the euro. This unit deals with the advantages and disadvantages of the pound or the euro and the foreign exchange market. Two work colleagues are having a drink in the pub when one of them spots a newspaper headline. Britain to join euro?
It will be a terrible thing for Britain to join.
Why do you say that? I think it would bring great benefits. We are in Europe after all, and it would open up all kinds of business options.
Name one.
An enlarged European market would lead to tougher competition. There would be more transparency in business and reduced costs.
You can't count the small saving on currency transactions as reduced costs. Imagine the cost to the country if we had to bail out Germany or Spain.
I don't think that's likely to happen.
Who's to say? Anyway, we are psychologically closer to the States and we shouldn't forget it. Our ties to the dollar have always served us well.
I think our ties to Europe are much stronger than you imagine, and I don't just mean geographically.
Well, you could say we're tied to Brussels. Every new law that comes along means more regulation for Britain. Do this, don't do that. Monetary union would just compound that.
Can you not see any of the advantages that have come out of our links with Europe?
Not really, no.
Greater stability, economic growth. We couldn't have created the Airbus on our own. We wouldn't have freedom to move around Europe. If we hadn't joined, we would be very isolated by now.
I bet you're also in favour of a single European state.
Actually, no. I think it's important for each member state to retain its identity.
But don't you see? A single currency means a single state. We would lose control of our economic sovereignty.
I think that is a huge exaggeration.
If Europe got hold of the pound, what would we have? I'll tell you what. Higher taxes, more regulations and an interest rate decided in...
Which, of course, would be far worse than an interest rate decided by the Bank of England. I'm going to the bar before they call time. Same again?
Pound or euro?
A country's currency is an emotional subject. It is now unclear whether the UK public, left to its own devices, would have had any strong objection to monetary union. Political parties have used it as a tool in their campaigns, and the press has been zealous in whipping up support for the pound as a symbol of national identity. Logical arguments for and against are lost in a wave of hysteria.
Foreign exchange.
Like any other market, the foreign exchange market is affected by supply and demand. Taking the US and the UK as an example, an increased demand for UK exports may lead to an appreciation of the pound, GBP, or in other words, the pound gets stronger against the dollar, USD. As the pound rises in value, however, the cost of UK exports also rises, and they become more expensive for the Americans to buy. Demand is then lowered, which may lead to depreciation of the pound against the dollar, and the fluctuation starts again. Foreign exchange transactions are recorded in a country's balance of payments, which may show a surplus or a deficit, depending on the level of currency being bought or sold to exchange for goods, services, or other financial transactions. Market intervention occurs when a government or relevant monetary authority intervenes on behalf of a particular currency to influence its market rate.
Unit 29. Green housing? This unit deals with the environment, the benefits of green housing, Pigouvian tax, ethical investments, and completing a company organisational chart. A conversation on the golf course gets Eric thinking about the future direction of Coopers Limited.
It's been highly successful. Indications are that energy consumption alone has been reduced by 70%.
That sounds like quite an achievement. When did you first get involved?
Oh, about 4 years ago. I met a German chap at a function. He was overseeing a building project outside Hamburg, based on sustainable development. It was a huge success and led to further EU funding. He was in Britain to start up a similar project in Liverpool.
What's the main focus?
Oh, there are several aims for eco-housing projects. The intention is to develop brownfield, as opposed to greenfield, sites, and to recreate communities. You know the kind of thing. Parks, shops, schools, mixed housing.
Mixed housing?
Flats and houses, from 1 bedroom to 6 bedrooms. Some privately owned, some rented out by housing associations. All incomes, all ages. Families and single people.
What about energy consumption?
The energy-efficient angle plays a major role. Not just insulation, but also solar energy, geothermal energy.
It sounds exciting.
Oh, it is. Especially because it not only concentrates on using sustainable products, such as local timber and bricks, but it also reintroduces traditional skills into the community.
What about waste management and water use?
Recycling points are placed at regular intervals. Internal water use is reduced, and more effort is made to collect rainwater for gardening.
What kind of funding is available?
At the moment, most local authorities give grants towards eco-housing. The EU has funded several projects, but cannot be expected to continue at the same rate.
I'd like to get Coopers involved. It sounds like the way of the future.
You wouldn't regret it.
What is a Pigouvian tax?
It's a tax on emissions devised by the British economist Pigou. To avoid the problem of direct regulation, the Pigouvian tax is levied per unit of pollution caused. This creates a fiscal incentive to organizations to reduce the number of units produced, thereby reducing their overall tax bill. This method avoids blanket regulation across industries, which may not prove efficient or effective.
Ethical investments are more popular than ever.
The time has passed when companies could disregard the opinions of their shareholders. Growing consumer awareness means that a higher percentage of investors are demanding more socially responsible action from the companies they invest in. Where investing ethically was once considered an expensive choice, avoided by all but the most socially committed individuals, there is now more support for the view that progressive, ethically managed companies may be more profitable than other, less conscientious companies. Whether this is strictly true may not matter. Ethical investors are more likely to endorse socially responsible companies, which in turn may promote more of the same behaviour, thus creating a virtuous circle. The figures speak for themselves. In the 3 years to 1999, ethical investments in the United States more than doubled and now account for more than $1 trillion nationally.
30. Getting to grips with exports. This unit deals with export restrictions and tariffs and applying economic sanctions. The business of exporting can be fraught with difficulties. Elecom plc is considering the latest restrictions, which look as if they may spell trouble for some of the company's products. Angela Lewis, the export manager, is explaining to Cynthia Shaw, a management trainee, what the restrictions mean.
A significant number of Elecom's goods are likely to be subject to the new export restrictions.
Why is that?
The problem arises with the term dual-use goods, which includes telecommunications and electronic equipment.
Dual use? Suggesting they might be used for military purposes?
Exactly. This is how the law defines it. The goods shall not be exported if the exporter has been informed by a competent authority that they are or may be intended, wholly or in part, to be used in connection with the development, production, handling, operation, maintenance, storage, detection, identification or dissemination of chemical, biological or nuclear weapons.
So some of Elecom's products will be included?
Or the development, production, maintenance or storage of missiles capable of delivering such weapons. I'm not suggesting our products are likely to be used for non-civilian purposes. It's how the new restrictions might see them. It's a question of interpretation.
How do we find out?
Whenever we develop a new product or amend an existing one, we need to apply to the Export Control Organisation at the Department of Trade and Industry. They will advise us whether an export licence is required.
What happens if they refuse a licence?
There's not much we can do. We can appeal, or we can wait to see if there are any changes.
If we get a licence, can it be revoked?
The government can revoke an export licence if it decides that a particular item should no longer be exported. This would usually be in the event of war, the UN imposing sanctions, or new information about how the product may be used for non-civilian purposes.
It must be quite a job keeping up to date with all Elecom's products.
It is. That's why we have a special team.
What's the connection between bananas and cashmere?
There is no connection, you may think, but they are now linked historically. In 1999, growing US resentment over the EU's import policy on bananas erupted into the threat of harsh import tariffs. Selecting a random mix of EU goods, ranging from cashmere sweaters and pecorino cheese to greetings cards and handbags. The US was set to impose 100% import duty on these goods, a potentially devastating move for European companies.
Economic sanctions.
In 1919, after the First World War, the idea was raised to use sanctions as an alternative to military action, rather than as an additional tool of warfare. More than 8 decades later, sanctions are now widely used, mainly by the US. Their success rate is diminishing, however. Before 1970, they were 50% successful. In the following 20 years to 1990, their effectiveness dropped to 20% and continues to fall. Globalization is one reason for this decline. Where there is no multilateral coalition of nations employing sanctions, a country that is targeted can more easily switch trade to other markets. Sanctions also have an impact on the country applying them, particularly when the action is unilateral. During 1995, the US enforced sanctions against 26 countries, with the resultant loss of $19 billion in US exports. This, coupled with the drop in effectiveness, means it may not be too long before sanctions fall from favour.